Have you ever noticed that strangers tell you things they've never said out loud before? Not because you asked, but because something about your presence made it feel safe to. You didn't do anything. You were just there. And it keeps happening. At dinner tables, in waiting rooms, on the side of conversations that were never meant to go that deep. Someone who barely knows your last name is suddenly telling you about the year that broke them, about the decision they regret, about the thing they've carried alone for longer than they should have. You listen. You always listen. And somewhere inside, you wonder why they chose you. But here's where it gets complicated. Because for all the people who open up to you, you rarely feel like you can do the same. You hold space for everyone else's truth, and yet yours sits quietly inside you, waiting for a room that never quite feels safe enough. You are someone people come to, and yet you often feel profoundly alone in a way that's difficult to explain, even to yourself. You understand people, sometimes better than they understand themselves. You notice the shift in someone's voice before they've said anything important. You feel the weight behind the words people use to pretend everything is fine, and you absorb it, all of it, without being asked to. People have called you quiet, reserved, hard to read. Some have mistaken your stillness for indifference. Others assumed your silence meant you had nothing to say. What they never considered is that you were saying everything, just not out loud. Society tends to reward the loudest voice in the room, the person who fills silence, the one who leads with confidence and takes up space without apology. And so someone like you often gets overlooked, underestimated, occasionally invisible in groups where performance passes for personality. But psychology sees something different. What people experience around you is not accidental. It is not luck. It is not simply that you are kind or polite or a good listener. What you carry is something far more rare. Psychologists who study social trust and interpersonal bonding have found that certain people possess what can only be described as a disarming presence. Not charisma in the traditional sense. Something quieter. Something older. When you are with someone, they feel felt. Not evaluated. Not advised. Not fixed. Just genuinely met. And that experience is so uncommon in daily life that when people encounter it, something in them exhales. Their guard comes down. Their words come out unfiltered. Because on some level, they sense that you are not performing your interest in them. You actually have it. Think about the last time someone told you something deeply personal. They probably didn't plan to. The conversation likely started somewhere ordinary. But there was a moment, almost imperceptible, where the tone shifted, where they looked at you a little differently. And then the real thing came out. That moment was not random. You created it, not with words, with your quality of attention. There is a concept in developmental psychology called attunement. It describes the ability to resonate emotionally with another person, to mirror not just their expressions, but the interior experience beneath them. Most people are never truly attuned to. They move through life surrounded by people who are half listening, already forming responses, already thinking about themselves. And then they meet you. And something in the nervous system recognizes the difference. But you already know this comes at a cost. Because carrying everyone else's emotional world is exhausting in a way that doesn't have a clean name. You go home from gatherings feeling heavier than when you arrived, even if nothing bad happened. You sometimes feel responsible for people you barely know. And in your most honest moments, you wonder if anyone has ever truly listened to you the way you listen to them. That doubt is real. It is not weakness. It is the natural shadow of a gift that was never explained to you. Because here is what no one told you. What you have is called deep relational sensitivity. It is not a personality quirk. It is not shyness wearing a philosophical disguise. It is a sophisticated, finely calibrated psychological ability to perceive the emotional subtext of human experience. It is the reason people trust you before they know you. The reason conversations around you become honest almost against people's will. And it is extraordinarily rare. When you begin to understand this, something shifts. You stop wondering what is wrong with you. You stop apologizing for the depth of your perception. You start to see that your quietness was never emptiness. It was attention. It was the kind of presence that most people spend their entire lives searching for in others. Imagine carrying that understanding into your relationships, into your work, into the way you see yourself in the mirror. not as someone who is too sensitive for this world, but as someone whose sensitivity is the most honest thing about them. Imagine giving yourself the same quality of presence you give everyone else. Sitting with your own thoughts the way you sit with the thoughts of strangers. Letting your own truth feel as worthy of space as theirs. That is what changes. Not overnight, not dramatically, but quietly and permanently, the way most real things change. You begin to trust the way you move through the world. You stop shrinking. You stop performing loudness to fit rooms that were never built for someone like you. You find people who can meet you where you actually are. And those relationships, the ones built on real attunement, become the steadiest thing in your life. You were never too much. You were never too quiet. You were never the problem in rooms that could not hold you. You were simply someone who felt everything. In a world that taught people to feel as little as possible. That is not a flaw to manage. That is the thing that makes people trust you before they know why. The thing that draws honesty out of people like light through a window. The thing that, once you finally understand it, you will stop trying to fix. Some of us are not meant to be the loudest voice in the room. We are meant to be the safest one. And the world needs that. More than it knows how to say. When did you first notice that people open up to you differently? Leave it in the comments. You might find you're not as alone in this as you thought.